Hello and welcome back to Dutchman Seb. We're here today at Next Level Automotive again after a couple of track days with the Del Sol. We need to give the car some TLC. The exhaust gasket in the head gasket is starting to leak a bit of gas into the coolant. I noticed it at Assen about 2 weeks back, and again at Zandvoort when the temperature started rising a little bit. I thought of the radiator because the radiator was losing water, and you could see tiny little air bubbles in the actual neck of the filler of the radiator, and that's a big sign that the exhaust gasket is starting to leak on the head gasket into the coolant jacket. So we're going to take the head apart. We're going to do a real easy head gasket replacement. I'm not going to go and do too much work on the car because it's a lot of money to spend on other parts to do valves and valve guides. So I've just got a new gasket set with new seals. I'm going to replace the valve seals to stop that blue smoking that we saw in the previous video that you can click up here on the top on the card and watch that video. We did a compression test and we had a look and we diagnosed to make sure that actually it's the valve seals that are leaking a bit of oil into the combustion chambers. So the head's going to go away, get skimmed to make sure the deck is flat, and that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to try and see if I can do a bit of a time lapse or a bit of a video. We'll see what happens. Thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and definitely subscribe. Enjoy the video. Alright, so we're setting the engine in top dead center. So we've got the crank position sensor, you can see down here. You've got a little side glass down there, and then you've got the notches here on the crank pulley. So that has to be lined up with the first notch that you see over there. So that makes it at top dead center, just before the ignition timing notches on the crank pulley. So now that the first cylinder here is at the top dead center position, we can then remove the cams and the distributor. So I can then make a marking here on the distributor. So we've made a little notch there, so that's lined up with the distributor, and then you'll see here, and this will also be lined up as well for the pulley once the cover is off. You can see that timing as well. So we're going to remove the valve cover now and take off the cams, because we are replacing the valve seals. All right, so we've got the valve cover off. So you can see the cam belt over here with the cam gear. So we're now setting the car in top dead center. So we have to make markings with a bit of paint. So here you can see the first marking, and there's actually a sign that says up on there as well. So there you can tell the top of the cam there says up, and then we've painted the cam belt. So you can see the position there. Here's a notch as well. On the inside of the cam wheel, there's a notch over there. It shows you when the cam is level with the head. So we've marked a bit of paint there, as well as a bit of paint over there. You can see it down below in the cam wheel. There's paint there as well, lined up with the valve cover. So there is another notch. I don't know if you can see it down there. There are notches down there on the cam wheel. You can see the profile, which is lined up with a marking on the block. So if you see there on the block, there's actually a line that marks up there with the cam wheel. So you know the car is in top dead center. And when we put the cam back again, everything is lined up with the first cylinder being in top dead center. Very important to make sure you mark your engine timing. Same thing goes again for your distributor. Making sure that your distributor is marked on top there. We put a little notch there to mark the top of the distributor. And that lines up there with that what do you call this thing again? I forgot the name of it now. But basically the distributor timing has to be also lined up. It's very important to make sure you make markings of those. So I'm going to loosen up the cam now so that I can replace the valve seals later on. So there's actually a sequence that you have to use when loosening head bolts or cam bolts, also in the reverse to do the tightening. So I've taken it off the internet. Here you can see there's the cam bolt sequence, the cam sequence to loosen the bolts. So you actually got to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So crisscross pattern, and the same thing with the head bolts, 10 head bolts. So first I'm going to do the cam bolts. So loosen up the cam, take out this, and then take out the head. You don't normally have to remove the cam if you're going to do just the head, but I want to replace the valve seals, so it's easier to get them when the cam's out. It's easier to do the cam loosening when the head's still on, because it's nice and tight, so you can still do the right torque to apply to get rid of it. So somewhere along the way of the time lapse, the battery ran out. First time filming a time lapse, so I wasn't really checking the camera battery, but we managed to get the head out. And here you can see the cylinder block. We still haven't drained the oil yet, so you can still see the oil there around the cylinders. And you can see a bit of the carbon buildup there on the cylinder heads, quite normal. Here's the exhaust manifold, here's the intake manifold, and the head's actually over here. And as I mentioned, I wanted to take the cam out so that we can replace the valve seals inside the cam here, inside the head. So the head's actually completely removed. Here's the old head gasket, and there's the rocker, and there's the cam. So it all looks really great actually. And if you look at the head gasket, it actually doesn't really look too bad at all. The only place where I can see possible leaks is actually here, where some of the rubber may have worn away there, but it looks quite okay everywhere around the gasket. So really uncertain there between cylinders 3 and 4. A little bit of the rubber has worn away, but otherwise it's not blown. The gasket actually looks really good, and it's a very good quality triple layer metal gasket. So it actually looked maybe all right. I'm not too sure why it was leaking exhaust gases, but the engine's quite old. It's had 230,000 kilometers, so just about time to kind of get the head gasket replaced anyways. We're going to send the head away now to get machined, just to make the deck flat again. But otherwise the head looks really good. You know, if you turn the head around and you can have a look at the underside, it's actually really good. So you can see there, it looks pretty decent. A bit of build-up of some white corrosion there on the intake valves, and a bit of carbon build-up there on the exhaust valves, but nothing out of the ordinary. No gouges, no holes in the head. Head looks really good. So I'm not too concerned about that, which is really good. So that's a good sign. So we're going to send this away and have it machined, and it'll come back from the shop in a couple of days, and then we'll put it back together again. All right, so we got the pistons now being cleaned, just trying to get off all the carbon buildup, just to give the pistons a little bit of a refurbishment. We're not replacing them, so just making sure they're good and clean. So as you can see, I've already done cylinder 1. There was quite a bit of black carbon buildup here on the piston, so now I've cleaned it a bit with a aluminium brush, and making sure that I'm not getting any damage to the cylinder walls, just getting off some of the black carbon build. So you can see here on cylinder 4, still a bit of carbon build up here, so just scraping that up, getting it a bit cleaned up there with some brake cleaner and a bit of a cloth, and just wiping it off, and then getting the hard stuff off with the wire brush. It's a soft wire brush, it's like rubber, and it's got a little bit of soft pieces inside there, so it doesn't do any damage to the aluminium cylinder heads. Just making sure it's all cleaned up, cleaning up the intake manifold, getting all the old gasket off there, the exhaust manifold over here, and then as well as the top of the head, getting that all cleaned up, making sure there's no residual gasket on there still. Alright, so the head's back from the machine shop. It just came back this afternoon. I went to go pick it up, so faster than I expected. And you can have a look now, and you can see they skimmed the head. So that's all now nice and flat. They took off only 8/100ths of a centimeter. So not really a lot. This head actually was quite flat. So a pretty good sign. I'm now starting to clean the valves, because the exhaust valves and the intake valves are really dirty and really bad. So I've actually removed one of the valves already here. You can have a look and see I've started to clean it up already. There was so much caking on the back here. You can still see in the front here, there's a bit of caking there on the valve as well. So that's really, really filthy. And here you can see a little bit of caking as well, oxidizing on the valves over there. So I need to get rid of all that. So one by one I'm going to take them out again, clean them up, polish them up. So I'm just going to use the bench brushes to be able to clean it up, make it all nice, and then we're going to put some paste on the back of that valve to turn it in the seat and cut the new seat. So it's making a good seating here in the valve cylinder. And then I've got the new the valve seals. So we're going to replace the valve seals. I've actually removed one of them already. So you can see here the old valve seal. It's a bit brittle and a bit dirty. And you can see inside there it was a little bit damaged as well. So time to replace those, definitely old and dirty. But the springs were still okay. So not too much problem there. And hopefully with the new valve seals there'll be a bit more better contact. I've got some engine cleaner here that I'm just leaving the valves in to sit overnight, so that they can get rid of all the rest of the carbon buildup on those valves. So that's my job for today. Clean up all the valves, make sure the cylinders clean up again. I still need to clean up the exhaust side here. The exhaust manifold is really dirty still, so that needs to be cleaned up. And then also on the intake manifold side, the old gasket's still on there, so I need to clean that off and get that all cleaned up. The parts arrived, so I've got new studs here for the exhaust studs. So those are going to go in on the exhaust side, and new nuts because the old ones were quite rusty and bad. Not fun. And here's the new belts. I got a new steering pump belt and a new AC belt. Not AC, sorry, alternator belt. New head bolts. And a gasket set underneath here as well. Also a new oil cap to replace the old oil cap. It's going to be quite nice. So yeah, just a little bit of work. You've got to use the G-clamp over here. It's a special G-clamp to be able to release the springs. So that's how we get the springs out. And then you've got these little half O-rings that come out the top of the valve stem that keeps the spring in place. So that's the job for today. Look at all those valves and springs. Intake, exhaust side, and they're all out, so all good. Now you can see all the valves have been removed. Time to get them cleaned up. Now you can see the valve seals. These are all the old ones. Those are going to come out. So I'm going to pull those out. Here's the one I removed already. And you can see the other ones there on the exhaust side. Those are going to go out as well. New valve seals. Okay, all the valve seals are off. You can see all the valve seals are gone. There's the old valve seals. I was a bit crude and pulled them off with a pump pliers, so not the nicest way to do it. There's normally a tool for it, but I didn't have it, unfortunately. So time to clean the valves now. You can see a lot of the valves are all quite crusty, needing to be cleaned up, so that's the next job. And then they're going to go in the bucket overnight with engine cleaner. Hey guys, we're back on day 3. We've got Urian back in the shop with us today. He had to look after his little boy Sam for the last few days, so he's back today to help us out. We've got the cam timing belt cover off, so he's going to replace the water pump. You can see he's got the water pump gasket seal in front of us now, and that's going to go in. So we've got a new timing belt, and if you can have a look here, you can see now the lower valve cover has been removed. and there's where the cam belt timing goes. The tensioner shaft is over there.
It's already new.
And that's been replaced, and the water pump goes in over there. So that's going in now. And then we're going to get the timing belt on again and put the head back on again. So I've just been cleaning the manifolds now. So you can see here the intake manifold's been polished. That's all cleaned up, and as well as the exhaust manifold. So there we go, you can see nice clean mating surface there for the exhaust manifold. And I've also now just been polishing up and cleaning the carbon buildup from the seats, so the valve seats. So we're going to cut the new valve seats now. So you can see the valve stems that were sitting in the engine cleaner for the last 2 nights. And those are all cleaned up now, no more carbon buildup. So we're actually going to put the valves into the seats, and we're going to cut new seats for a good mating surface, so that the valves and the seats can have no leakage there. So it's all cleaned up now. It looks good as new again. And the combustion chambers had a little bit of carbon buildup, so I tried my best to get that all cleaned up. And then we're going to put the rocker back in again, the cam belt, the cam, and that's all going to get torqued up and finish up over the next couple hours. All right, so Uren's been busy cutting new valve seats for the valve stems, because the valves were quite pitted, and they need to have a good seating with the valve seat, so there's no leaking from the compression. So Uren's finished that now. He's putting the valves back in again with some new valve seals. So you can see now he's lubricated the valve stems, and he's knocking on the new valve seals here. So that's going to be good. So the intake side is done, and then we're going to do the exhaust side. But you can see how much better the edge of that valve stem looks now. Much cleaner, less holes, less pitting. So we've marked them correctly here, which cylinder they go into, and if it's number 1 or number 2. So they've been correctly matched to the right seating. So I'm going to put a little time lapse there so you can see Uren at work over there.
Look at that.
One complete head reassembled. Well, not complete, but still got the cam to go in. So we're going to put the rocker on with the cam in now. Uren's just finished putting on the spring retainers, the valve retainers. You can have a look and see there, all looks pretty good. So next for the cam, and we'll take it from there. Okay, cool. So the head's ready. Jeroen's put the rocker arm back on again. So we're going to put the gasket on, and it's going to go back into the engine. So there's the new gasket, and we're going to seat the head to that now. Going to clean out the cylinders first as well with a bit of air. Make sure there's no dirt in there. Jeroen's giving me funny looks. All right, so let's see how that goes. somewhere along the line, the battery on the time-lapse died. So I'm not sure where you guys saw up until. But basically, we managed to get the car back together again. Everything started up fine. However, there's a lot of smoke coming out the exhaust. It's really smoking bad, and we suspect that there's coolant leaking somewhere. So we're not sure if the head gaskets failed or if there's coolant getting in somewhere else. So we're doing some pressure tests now on the cylinders to make sure that there's no air coming from the cylinders into the coolant. We've flushed the coolant. We've done the oil change. We ran the car for a while, and it's just smoking, consistently white smoke. So there's definitely coolant getting in somewhere. So we'll let you know what happens with the pressure testing. We'll see how that goes. So Jan's busy connecting the hose here. We're working quite late today. Jeroen's been here with me the whole day since 9:30, and it's now 7:20. So it's been quite a long day. Hopefully we can get this thing sorted out today. But by the chances of looking at it now, we need to just diagnose where the problem is coming from. All right, so we're putting pressure onto the cylinders. Jeroen's cranking it to see if there is any leakage between the cylinder, and there's no bubbles coming out of the coolant. So the coolant's not getting bubbles, which means that there's no air coming from the cylinders from the head gasket that we've just replaced into the coolant. So that's a good sign.
Don't jinx it.
We haven't checked all of them yet. So we have only checked cylinders 3 and 4. So we still need to go to 1 and 2. So if the head gasket's good, then we need to diagnose where is the coolant coming from somewhere else. So that's the first 2 cylinders done. Let's hope the rest is good. All the spark plugs were wet, so there's definitely coolant in the cylinders. So that's not news. We know that already from the smoke.
Nou, los, want ik kan hem niet verder draaien. Ja?
Okay. Choke good.
So cylinder 2 was good as well. I really got to say thanks to Jan and Jeroen helping out late night on a public holiday as well. 7:30 at night, and we've been here since 9 o'clock this morning, so long day for everyone. So really appreciate the guys helping out to check everything. I can't go home like this. I can't drive the car with all the smoke. It's terrible.
Oh, even los. Zet ik hem weer eventjes over het dode punt. Ja.
Het lijkt wel naar de speed in laten.
Ja.
Oh
Hoor
yeah.
niks hier. Oh, je gaspak.
Yeah, you can, there's a bit coming out there. Yeah.
Ja, ik kan het doen nog eens los. Dan draai ik hem even iets verder nog. Je hebt best kans dat dit komt het uit? Ja. Nog eens? Ja. Nou pakt hij de volle bar. Now it's closed.
Yeah, the valve was still open in the intake. Yeah. Nothing coming out there. No bubbles. No coolant. Is the coolant still full? Eh? Yeah, it's still full.
You can assume that your gasket is good.
Still oil in there.
No,
Yeah,
it's
but maybe
always
it's old.
it's greasy.
It's greasy coolant, yeah. To lubricate the water pump.
Ik wil die andere ook nog zo doen. Ik wil gewoon 100% die druk erop
Ben je
hebben.
niet bang dat die moer veel strak draait zo? Je zit even 8 bar op die moer.
So it looks as though on a first try, cylinders 1, 2, 3 and 4 have a good head gasket seat.
Met slachtol gedaan.
So that means we still need to find where the problem is coming from. That still looks good. But at least we don't have to strip the head off again. That's the good news.
Ja, voor mij ook.
Alright, so after all the testing and done and all the fuss, Peter over here, who's the shop owner, just came around and said, hey guys, this happens quite a lot. Just drive the car for a few minutes, let all the water get out of the exhaust system, and there's no more smoking. So it all looks good, and yeah, there was no leaking in the compression test. Smoking is gone. So yeah, really strange to see that after all the fuss, just a bit of a drive, get the car warmed up, and everything seems to be okay. So we did a new water pump, new timing belt, new valve seals, new oil filter, cleaned the valves, and the valve seats were cut new, new head gasket, new coolant flush, new coolant hose because the hose was leaking after being a bit damaged and old. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, everything's torqued up and done, so really well done job. 3 days, a long day today. We ordered some pizza now to enjoy some dinner because it's quite late and we're starving. So thanks again for watching, guys. Until next time, cheers.